Coffee when it's still like hot enough to like burn your throat, but just a little bit as it goes down is like so good, actually. Is there something wrong with me? Am I alone in feeling that way? Like when you can still feel the warmth as it goes down your esophagus into your stomach, like so you're a masochist, but it doesn't hurt though. Like it's not painful. It is what it is, I guess. Numbers aren't even out. They don't need to be out for us to be able to like make an educated guess on how different characters are going to compare in his team. All right, it's not going to be perfect, but there are a few comparisons that will be relatively easy to make. Right, because the goal here is we're going to make a sheet that has how different team compositions compare for all of the different Varka versions that we've thought of so far. Like, we won't have reliable overall team DPS numbers, and also because we have to assume how strong we expect him to be, there is obviously a chance that he's just fucking Daya and he's a standard character and like he's dog shit. But like if we go into it with the assumption that he's going to be a fairly good character that ends up around as similar to where Skirk is, we can get pretty reliable comparisons between supports already. Anyways, chat, let's take a look at the Varka leaks. 2-color authority. When there are 2 animal characters in the team, gain 1 stack of a buff. When there are 2 characters of the same swirlable element, gain another stack. When this buff has 1 or 2 stacks, Varka's damage becomes 140 or 220% of the original damage. Wait, that means you straight up can't play Faruzan, right? Like, because there's not 2 supports of a swirlable element that are witches, so if you want to play him with Durin, you have to use Venti or Sucrose, right? And you probably do want to play him with Durin. That's so funny. Oh, that's so funny, actually. That's how they're making him not Faruzan reliant. I mean, probably they're also gonna make him do like 50-50 on his damage, right? Anemo and something else. Varka is a witch. Do you guys think he's gonna be a witch himself? Maybe, maybe not. After releasing skill, normal attacks will reduce a cooldown of enhanced skill by 0.5 seconds. Oh, if there are 2 mages, it's 1 second instead. Okay, so he might be a witch. Okay, he looks like he's gonna be a witch then. Never mind. Maybe we're fine then? He doesn't have a homework quest. He won't get the 20% from the set. But like, what if it's not his set? What if his set is actually supposed to be Thundering Fury? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what if? Listen. I'm getting the impression based off of this that his burst is gonna not matter. Or maybe his burst is gonna be the, like, okay, his burst is either, like, gonna be completely meaningless, or it's gonna be his main source of damage. Because I feel like, with the way this is, like, this is either his skill does the damage, or his burst does damage based on how many times you've used skill. I could see either being a thing. Should we take a, should we do some very speculative early calcs? Like, make up some numbers for him, and look at how different teams would compare based on those numbers with a kid that functions like this? Is that something you guys would want to see? Okay, so we're gonna do a few. Baseline would be Varka, Bennett, Venti, Durin, maybe? I don't know about Venti. Probably Venti. Would Venti be better than Sucrose? TTDS do pop off, you know? We'll look at Faruzan as well, don't worry. If he's attack scaling, why do we care about Sucrose? I mean, Sucrose gives a pretty big damage percent and attack percent buff. Like, she's just Kazuha, but better in witch teams. Yeah, Faruzan C6 is not crit damage to animal characters, it's animal crit damage. So it would only work on the animal portion of Varka. Okay, here's what we're gonna do, chat. We're gonna have a few different Varka, okay? First, we're gonna have Vasca, okay? Vasca is assuming that his animal damage isn't really there, and he's like Chaska in that he just like takes the damage. Anyways, we got Vasca. Next, I want to have Vanyan. Vanyan is 50-50 for the damage, where the motion value for the absorbed damage and for the animal damage are like similar. Then we can have Wanderer, where it's like pretty much all anemo damage. Should we have any other Varkas here? Maybe some non-attack scaling ones? No, if he is supposed to be a witch, he's definitely going to be attack scaling, I think. Viao? No, but there's no meaningful difference between Viao and Wanderer, I think. His weapon is Wolf's Gravestone. He's definitely an attack scaler. You got to remember Yunjin's weapon is Dragon's Bane, man. So maybe not. Oh, we can also we can have Bezo, but maybe not. Because like, if this is real, you definitely don't play him in Quick Swap. Can you do 70% 30 anemo? Or 70 pyro 30 anemo? I don't really want to, because like, what would we call it? It needs to have a name. I guess maybe like Varti. And finally we'll have Viao, maybe, for if his burst is like important, right? Nah, I don't want to actually. Fuck that. No, I think these are like the main 4, assuming that the leak is real, the main 4 possibilities that are gonna meaningfully change his team building. It's like almost all pyro, almost, or 50-50, almost all anemo, and a bit more pyro pyro than anemo. I don't think it's gonna be a bit more anemo than pyro. I would like actually highly doubt that. Wait, but Venti isn't more pyro than anemo. He's more anemo than pyro. I guess we don't really have like an actual 70-30 that's more absorbed than, well, maybe Bennett, kinda. Like if you only use her burst, no, whatever, man. I guess we'll just call it 70-30, man. I guess I should call it 30-70 because I think that's more like intuitive. Numbers aren't even out. They don't need to be out for us to be able to like make an educated guess on how different characters are going to compare in his team. All right, it's not going to be perfect, but there are a few comparisons that will be relatively easy to make. Also, Varka, Serpent Spine, Sapwood, Fingless, Wolf Fang, I guess. Let's do Lion's Roar, actually. We have Witch set, so it's called like something Dawn, right? No, it's called something Winds. Bennett, Noblesse, maybe? Venti. Now, is it a VV or is it a Cinder City angle? I guess it depends. Probably VV, though. And Durin probably goes Winds, too. Well, no, Winds on Venti as well. Venti does less damage than the other two, and both of these characters are going to be doing power damage that gets buffed by VV. VV is a bit worse for me because he kind of lacks damage percent unless he has self-buff. He probably has self-buff, though. Like, that's the thing. But also, Venti is damage percent. Spine is damage percent, so it might not be that bad. Base attack for carries nowadays generally hovers around 350. Based on his kit, I expect him to have damage percent self-buff and crit self-buff if he has any self-buff, not attack self-buff. But maybe he does have attack self-buff. I'm not sure, right? Like, we're gonna have to guess at the end of the day. But for now, I'm gonna assume that he doesn't get any attack self-buffs. I'm gonna assume he gets like 40 damage percent from a passive. No, actually, he already has 2 passives. But this is his witch passive, right? Most likely, right? Most likely, this is supposed to be his witch passive, so he probably has 1 extra passive on top of that. So I think 40 damage percent from a passive is like pretty reasonable of an assumption, right? No self-crit buffs. And then we'll figure out motion values by assuming the team is at like 125k maybe. Would that be reasonable? Are we expecting better than 125k team DPS or worse than 125k team DPS? Nah, at least 160. No, there's no. I don't think there's any chance he ends up better than the non-cry stuff. The question is he gonna be better than the non-cry stuff without Columbina? I think there's a good chance he is. Yeah, like he might end up better than the non-cry stuff if we get more support for him afterwards. Like maybe like 130k is reasonable of an assumption. Yeah, that's like around Skirk level, right? 130, 140 is around Skirk level. Like that's probably reasonable. Skirk isn't 130. Optimized rotation with realistic combo Skirk is around that. Optimized combo Skirk with non-optimized rotations is also around that. And most people that play Skirk seriously do one of the two. So I think it's fine to talk about Skirk as a 130k unit. Starting to realize that he's basically locked to Pyro because the Hydro, Electro options for him are completely garbage. Kinda. Probably. Maybe. Chongyun will be the dark horse with cooldown reduction. I mean, it could be. Like, characters that have flat cooldown reduction like in their kit benefit more from percentage cooldown reduction because those things scale together very well. But it's gonna be a matter of breakpoints, and I don't really expect Chongyun to get to a meaningful breakpoint. Maybe it does, though. Who knows? Maybe you get one more skill with Chongyun, and maybe that's enough to make Chongyun good. But then you need a good second cryo, and that doesn't exist. When you got characters with Serpent Spine, do you usually consider R1 or R5? I never consider R5 Battle Pass weapon. The only R5 Battle Pass weapon I consider sometimes is Sack Jade R5, but it's gonna be specified that it's R5 when I do. So, how much attack percent do we have here? Okay, actually, main stats are probably gonna be different based on which Varka we're using. Vasca would probably go Pyro damage Goblet, right? Just the Goblet would be different. Vanyan would probably be Attack Goblet. Wanderer would be Anemo Goblet. 30-70 is probably still Pyro, but I think it's close. And then motion value, right? Vasca would be 0 and however much motion value. For now, let's just say like 6k. Vanyan would be this divided by 2. Wanderer would be this. Yeah. Okay. What are our sources of attack here? We have Sands. We have the Wind set, which is 43. We have Pyro Resonance, which is 25. We have Noblesse, which is 20. Do we have anything else? Substats, another 20. That should be it. Flat attack, around 350. And then 139% of Bennett's attack. Crit value, Anemo. Crit Ascension. Main stat. Substat. The Wind set. Serpent Spine as well. Okay. Damage percent. We'll have... how much damage percent do we get on him? For Anemo damage, we have Venti's 50. We have Serpent Spine 30. Is that it? Probably, right? Yeah. And then for Pyro damage, we have also the 50 and the 30. But now we also have Bennett's C6. Do you like Varka? Yeah, I like him a lot. Anemo damage gets shred by Venti. No, sorry, by Durin. 35. And that's it. So it's 1.125. And then pyro damage has the extra VV, 1.325. Okay. Time probably will be an 18-second rotation. Probably going to be higher than 6,000 motion value if this is the case. But we'll adjust the motion value based off of team DPS once we've calculated the total. Venti. Okay. And then Durin. Yep. And if we're assuming the team is at around 130k, that would mean that Varka needs to have around 9k motion value here. All right, let's now copy this whole thing here and take a look at a couple different options for the teams. The 220%, this is including the 220. I'm not gonna look at any teams that don't max out that passive. I mean, like, I guess I could, but anyway, so we can look at alternatives to Venti. So we can look at Faruzan, C6. With Faruzan C6, we lose the 50 damage percent buff from Venti. That's all that we lose from Venti, like, as buff. Then obviously Faruzan's damage itself is going to be different. Can we get away with stringless Faruzan, or are we going to need to go Fab? We probably need to go Fab, right? Burst is just too expensive. 196 plus 454. New event bow. I think new event bow doesn't allow you to go attack sands. You'd still need ER sands with new event bow. And if you're going to need ER sands, you're better off just using Fab. Damage percent. We go anemo damage. We would probably split it instead of anemo and pyro. We split between on field and off field, because on field she has her own buff and off field she doesn't for the damage percent, which is 38.3. For now we stick to VV, but I think we'll look at VV and TOM because, or actually VV and Cinder City, because specifically in the Wanderer version, VV's not going to be good at all. But I think for the Vasca version, VV is better. And then off field damage doesn't have this. What do you do instead of Durin if you don't have him? We'll take a look at that too. But honestly, you cry. I think the next best option is probably going to be C6 Jawars without overload. Or maybe Iansan plus Fischl is a little bit better, but it's a little cooked. Do you need off-field pyro? We don't know yet. Iansan isn't scrolling. I know, but like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Bring Yai? Like, anyways, yeah. So not much of a surprise there. If we get Vasca, if the Varka that we get is like pretty much all absorbed damage like Tosca is, Faruzan would be way fucking worse than Venti. Wait, actually, for Faruzan, I didn't even change rotation length from the fact that Faruzan cooldown is 19 seconds. Is gonna be 19 seconds. GG. Okay, 100k doesn't seem that bad. This is a 2 5-star team that uses C6 Faruzan. This isn't even that much better than Venti carry. Let's next take a look at Sucrose. With Sucrose, I don't think we really need to calc damage on Sucrose. We'll do just like we did on Bennett. Assume a little, and that's that. Okay, but yeah, and here Sucrose would be a noticeable amount better than Faruzan with this assumption, right? Okay, the next one I want to do is, yeah, it's Faruzan on TOM here instead of VV. Or not TOM, sorry, on Cinder City. Wait, I think I forgot to put the 38.3 anemo damage to Vasca himself, the man himself. And we gain 1k DPS. Huge. Plus 1k. Easy clap. Then we go scroll. 90,002. Noticeably worse if we get Vasca, but it'll be better if we get Wanderer. So I still want to have this. Furina Mona healer. That's going to be awful. Unless he has a passive that gives him like 200% attack, you're pretty much always going to want to play him with either Bennett or Iansan. I think the only viable alternative to the Pyro team will be the Electro team. Maybe. 9,000 motion value is kind of insanely high. It's not that high. Skirk has more than that. Right, Skirk is over 10,000. Yeah, I guess the next thing we look at is going to be for people who don't have Durin, if they do Iansan, Fischl, Sara. Sara's not good if you're like for non-electro. But I guess maybe I actually know. Maybe you're onto something actually. Because if he is mostly electro damage, then Sara could actually be good. Wait, are you actually just cooking like crazy right now? Oh my god. Fuck Fischl though. Like we're putting Iansan in the bag. Sara Iansan. Hear me out. Inefa Columbina. Shut the fuck up. How would Iansan trigger Cinder City? She wouldn't. Put the noblesse in the bag. It's fine. I guess our second support set is a little cooked, right? Because I guess it would be like TOM Sara, but like that's kind of pathetic. Maybe we just build Sara for damage, but it's so bad to do that, man. Try Song of Days past Iansan. No. No, that's not real. You're going too far. Do you even need to burst on Sara? Not necessarily. Sara burst is 20 seconds. No, it's not. It's 19 seconds. We have anemo resonance. Can't forget about the anemo resonance, man. We probably, yeah. Our rotations probably do get extended by having to go refresh Sara buff, though. So we probably do end up with the 19-second rotation. So we might as well burst on Sara every rotation. animation. And then I guess we build her for damage, but it's not gonna be that much damage. What weapon is she getting? The new one? No. You want a high base attack weapon, right? You barely just go sack. Oh yeah, Fading Twilight exists. I forgot about that. I forgot Fading Twilight is a thing. That's kind of your best bet, right? If you don't have it, you just go sack. Let's just say sack, honestly. Fading Twilight is barely better than sack anyways. Furina plus Mona is probably better. No. You guys are underestimating how long these animations take. Unless Varka deals all of his damage in like 5 seconds, playing Furina plus Mona tends to be pretty awful. Animations are just so fucking long. Especially if it also forces you to bring a healer that makes your team worse because you don't have a good anemo healer for this slot. There's no way that's gonna be good. Like, maybe if you have C4 Gene, it's fine, but C4 Gene is fake anyways. Gene for attack speed. True, actually. Attack speed might actually be relevant because it might get you to a breakpoint that gets one more skill or whatever. If he's quickswap, what about Versa Iansan? No. Versa doesn't tend to be that good in quickswap teams unless the like the character you end up swapping to is actually buffing her as well. Because every character in Verisa's default teams is very meaningful for the team. All right, it's not like a Skirk team where your last slot is kind of pathetic. Everyone is just doing so much. It's possible to run TF. TF doesn't proc off of Electro Swirl, so no, unfortunately. Total flat attack, 810 from Iansan, assuming Varka moves enough, hopefully. Rage. There's no shot they give him a dual Claymore and they make him stay stationary the whole time. I feel like the whole like appeal of dual Claymore is really big, bulky guy that's strong as fuck and moves the Claymores as if they were rapiers. Right? Like I feel like that's what they're going for. So I really expect him to have animations that make him move a lot. This is peak theory crafting, by the way. Finding lore reasons why Iansan is gonna work. Anyways, I don't think it's reasonable to assume that he'll move enough to get the 25 from Iansan C6. I'll just assume that he stays kind of like Arlecchino. He at least moves enough to maintain the Night Soul above 42. All that's left is Sara. This is not bad. What the fuck? Wait, this is not that far behind the Durin version, chat. Wait, that's kind of crazy, actually. What the fuck? Does Hakushin work on Swirl? It does, right? Hakushin is just any electro reaction. So Sucrose will also be pretty decent here. Are you doing 2 E's with sack? You can do 2 E's without sack. This rotation is Sara E into Venti. Like Iansan, Sara E into Venti, Sara burst into Vasca, and then refresh with Sara E. With a C1, you can do 2 E's, and it will line up pretty well. Is Vasca a joke? Is he similar to Chaska? No, this is our hypothetical version of Varka that has his damage profile like Chaska, where there's almost no anemo damage, and it's all absorbed damage. Ooh, actually, this rotation doesn't get Sara's buff on her burst, huh? Do we change it then? Maybe Codex Iansan is the play. You can't. You don't proc a rotation on Iansan. I guess you just do a charge attack here, but I don't know if the rotation is going to be allowing you to do that properly. We hope so. Yeah, even on Emblem, her damage is so fucking pathetic, man. Yeah, whatever. Noblesse. We already have someone on Noblesse, and she doesn't really have a good alternative set. Maybe TOM is better. Honestly, TOM probably is better, if I'm being, like, actually honest about things, but I don't know. I also don't know if 19-second rotation in this team is realistic, but oh well. Interestingly, this is more personal damage on Varka than Pyro version. You don't have a healer though, which is painful. Anyways, let's take a look at same thing with Sucrose. So we're gonna have Hakushin Sucrose. We basically don't do any damage with this, right? On Sucrose herself. That's actually not entirely true. This is a team where you Sucrose burst every rotation. Why not TTDS? Because you don't TTDS every rotation. And this is a team that's already so stacked in attack percent. So I'm pretty sure Hakushin would be better. Really have no, you know what? The uptime's probably not good enough. I think I'm probably being too optimistic. Let's just do Can you even do TTDS with Sara though? Not really, right? Because you have to swap from Sara to Varka. Can't do Sucrose to Varka. With a burst, you can though. I guess it's fine then, right? Because this is a team that bursts on Sara every rotation, and we're already using the Sara burst right before the first uptime. All right, so yeah, it's quite a bit worse with Sucrose here, unfortunately. Difference seems to be a little bit bigger than. Why is it bigger? 106k for a 1-cost team is good. Yeah, but it's kind of a fake 1-cost team because like you need C6 Iansan, but the people who have C6 Iansan are people that already have teams where they want to use Iansan, and this is not competitive with those, so it's like, ugh, you know. And you also need C6 Sara. Anyways, let's take a look at Fischl instead of Sara. We lost a fuck ton of damage, no surprise there. Let's take a look at TOM. Well, weapon. Kind of hard to do double stringless, and this team doesn't have that much attack. We also don't have a healer, so you can't use Song of Stillness. I guess it's still just stringless, but meh. And then damage, we are VV'd, right? Yeah. And then, is this better or worse compared to Golden Troupe? -20, -20. It is slightly better than Golden Troupe, but it's basically the same. Fischl is a good amount worse than Sara, assuming Sara worked, but still not sure if Sara works well, right? Because we don't even know if Varka's allowed to swap out, right? Like that's a pretty big assumption. I think this is good enough for now. So pretty much no matter what, with currently released units, his best team will be Venti Durin, right? Even if he's all anemo damage, Venti Durin is still better because he's, well, I guess he could just have a like 2 more billion damage percent in his kit. So like technically it's not like 100% guaranteed, but it's very likely that's going to be his best team. But then the next best team without Venti, it kind of depends on how his kit is, but it's probably going to be either Sucrose, about 10% behind, 10 to 15% behind, or Faruzan, about 5% behind, depending on his damage distribution. I think that the most likely one is going to be this. Like this is the damage profile I would expect. Is there a single combo of 2 effect characters that could make up for missing out on the plus 80% damage multiplier? I mean, maybe in wheelchair, but not in carry Varka. But like, yeah, in FA Columbina it's probably going to be viable. What a surprise. That's kind of cool though. What would be the best outcome? Probably Vasca if we're talking about health of the game, right? Because the better these 2 teams are, the less cringe it is to build his teams. But yeah. And assuming his premium team is at around 130k, you like basically need to be above 80 to be over 100k, right? So like these teams that are at like 75 are kind of pathetic. It's like you're basically at 100k, right? Like it's like, ugh. Like it's not bad, but it's like, yeah, a little cooked. Anyways, I think that's enough Varka yap for now. Why is the Faruzan version so much worse? Is Faruzan good with Chaska? We're assuming a damage profile that has very little anemo damage in that one. That's why Faruzan is bad. If we look at a damage profile that has a lot of anemo damage, then Faruzan is very good. It depends. Isn't 130k for past release Columbina standards a bit low? I don't think so, because I'm expecting him to get buffed by a future release like Alice or Nicole or whatever.
Deuce on the loose!
Yeah!
Deuce on the loose!
Deuce on the loose!